Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, the Hawks finally took a step in the right direction.
And good news for Braves country, Max is on the mend. And I think more good news for Braves country because Braves Rays 1-2. I don't think it's that close.
And last but not least, and for the culture, Kiki Ursher. That's all coming up next, right here at ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. ATL Day Ones is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up in 10 minutes, I'll let you know that the Braves already made an addition after the All-Star break, and you will be very excited about who that may be. But first, T, we have to talk about Dejounte Murray. We were talking about what does loyalty mean for Dejounte Murray? What does loyalty mean for the Atlanta Hawks? All that good stuff, the cryptic tweets and all that good stuff. It seems like it was for a reason because the Atlanta Hawks have signed Dejounte Murray. It said the news will become official at some point today. 4 years, $138 million, T, which includes the last year of his original contract. How about that? They were able to get this deal done, but do you think this was a fair deal for both sides?
Yeah, I think much fairer than I thought it was just yesterday. That was my issue, whether or not he was leaving so much money on the table versus what he could get next year in free agency. Now, don't get me wrong. He still left a lot on the table, but I feel like the deal is a little bit better, at least at 120 for 4 years. And while I wish the player option and that's just a personal thing from a business perspective, would have been cool if the player option would have been a little bit earlier in, but hey, it's 2027, 2028 as it stands. But yeah, I think that it is about as fair a deal as you can get, right? If your goal is to stay with the Hawks and build something here, and you believe that something can be built here. And from the Hawks perspective, hey, you're still looking at the apron strings and you're not trying to pull them too much, if you will. And this deal allows that to happen for you. And maybe, I don't know if it allows you to get a top tier player, but it may, and most of them are gone anyway at this point, but it at least gives you the opportunity to maybe get somebody who's bumping up to top tier, should that power forward still be out there.
Yeah, and I think that, getting Dejounte under contract for the long term, it kind of confirms to me that, there were some dealings as to whether or not Travis Slank made this move or he was responsible for this move. And we know that for a fact he did not want to do it. So it kind of confirms that the other people behind the scenes, whoever that was when he was still here, confirms that this was their plan, right? They traded for these guys, gave up all these assets, 3 first-round picks, 2 unprotected, and to bring Dejounte Murray in to pair him with Trae Young. So now I feel like the Hawks, I can kind of see where they're going, right?
Yes.
But we still don't know if it's going to work or not.
Right.
We don't know that. We shall see. And I'm leaning towards it working because of what we've been talking about the best free agent addition that for the team, for this team, and that's been Quinn Snyder. Like, I feel he has a very unique way of establishing relationships with his guys. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's a coincidence that he's from Seattle as well. DJ is from Seattle. So those guys, I was talking with Andy Bunker. I got Andy the other day, and he was talking about how people from the south side of Seattle are very special people. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't know if you're from the south side, but you seem like it because I like DJ too, because I've been impressed with this guy. I've said he's a different type of guy ever since I got a chance to talk with him after that home opener tee. And I was just like, this dude is different. He's built different. He's different from a lot of guys that they had on the roster at the time. And I feel like he's going to be a type of guy that people are going to get behind. You're going to understand that he's the leader, one of the leaders of this team, if not the leader of this team. And you understand wholly why Landry Fields and this regime got this deal done.
Right. And for me, it was the work that I did as an in-game analyst for the Hawks. And every time the Spurs came to town, I was like, oh, God, is he playing again?
Right.
Keys to the game. Stop Dejounte Murray.
Yes.
And even though I had to give, 2 minutes worth of keys to the game at pregame and halftime, no, it's the same. Stop him. Right. And I think this is a good look as well because you only had a small sample size. And one of the things that Quinn Snyder said during that small sample size, recall when DJ was out a couple games, we have to put together players to be able to accommodate for what we lose when he's not in the game. That's a powerful statement from Quinn Snyder, right? So I think that speaks volumes to how Quinn Snyder views him. And the other piece is this. I mentioned it yesterday. I'm going to mention it again today. Trae Young and Dejounte Murray, their numbers may have gone down in certain spaces, but where their numbers stayed the same and they did something historic is in point to assist. Their point ratio to assist ratio has only been bested in the entirety of the association by Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Tell me if that's not a backcourt that you want to build on in terms of being able to have some statistical analysis or comparison. So I like the fact that, yes, keep the backcourt stable. You now have the likes of a Kobe Buffkin who can give you some quality minutes as well. You still have Bogdan Bogdanovic when you go to that second unit. And of course, DJ did a fantastic job as well of ushering over the second unit when Trae would go out and he would, run point. So I do think that at the end of the day, they've got it. But I also think, just so we're clear, they still haven't done enough to compete in the Eastern Conference because this makes you even. It just makes you even in your security of your backcourt. Your front court still needs help.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with you on that to a point. Because here's why I say that. Because I like the development of Jalen Johnson and Sadiq Bey last year. In those 20-some-odd games that they got a chance to work with Quinn Snyder. So if you're telling me one of those guys is going to be the starter, and I feel like whoever is not a starter, you're going to have a quality guy coming off the bench in that role, right? So, and I'm not saying that I would like for them to add to that room, right? We talked about Grant Williams, who ended up going to the Dallas Mavericks, on a sign and trade, and I like the idea of adding to that room. So if they can find someone to add to that room, I feel like they would be on the ascension to being one of those teams in the Eastern Conference. Because to be honest with you, I don't think the Boston Celtics got better. You trade away a defensive player of the year type player in Marcus Smart, and you bring in Kristaps Porzingis, a guy who may give you 55, 60 games. I know he had a really good year this past year, but when you're talking about competing in Eastern Conference, and the Boston Celtics have been there, they have been that squad, right? Yeah. And I think that when you trade away a heart and soul type player like Marcus Smart, and I'm still not sold on Joe Mazzulla as the head coach. Yeah. And if that's the bar, I really feel like the Hawks may have gotten a little bit closer towards the Celtics versus the Celtics kind of moving and establishing themselves as the clear favorite in the Eastern Conference going in.
See, I don't feel like the Celtics have established themselves as a clear favorite because we have to remember.
I don't either.
Giannis Antetokounmpo was not Giannis last year, so that was a big part of the exit of the Bucks. They're still a
Chris
lot.
Middleton as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, and the Heat. They are still the front runners to get Dame Lillard. And I do believe that if that
happens, now we're talking about having no conversation.
Exactly. So that's where my mind is going. And also, they allowed, Max Strus to walk or whatever, but I still think they're the team that's tinkering enough to be able to be the team to beat. And I just feel like, you've got maybe a cadre at the 4, but at the 3, I still think you got to get more out of that, out of the 3. I just still don't think DeAndre Hunter is the complete answer. But if you can't get anybody else, then, you go with that. And I think Clint Capella, the only thing I would say with that is you just need to be aware that if a center comes available now or even at the trade deadline and you can go for him, a center that is built more along the Nikola Jokic vein where you can get something from the perimeter here. Yeah. And I say of the vein, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
You're not going to get
in the same realm.
But there you go, in the realm. If you can get that guy somehow, then that's why I say I don't think that they really are much improved. I still think there's work to do.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely as of today. No, I'm not saying they're Eastern Conference contender, but I'm saying they are taking a step in the right direction. And that's all you can ask at this point in this offseason. Now, T, we have started with the baseball season. We're going to talk a little baseball coming up next about who's the free agent addition that the Braves could potentially have after the All-Star break. But first, I have to let you know that this episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It is the #1 sportsbook in America. Why don't you take your first swing on Major League Baseball on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Man, how about that? That's $200 you can spend betting on everything from the money line to over under to who you think is going to be the first home run. You know, the Braves are killing it. 91 runs in the first inning, leading the major leagues by a long shot. All you got to do is just put your money. Could they going to be nephew Ronnie, Matt Olson? Go ahead and bet your money right now and go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, it is the official partner of Major League Baseball.
Well, Jarvis, a lot of people are wondering where, when, and how to bet on the Falcons, and they can start figuring it out because you know what is 18 days away? Training camp. Yeah. We're also 7 Saturdays away from the start of college football, but you know what's going on right now, and the hottest team in baseball is getting it done, and all eyes are on them. It's the Braves. Of course, they take on the Rays this weekend in a pivotal matchup that we'll talk about in a moment. But we got some good news on Thursday about Max Fried. He'll begin a minor league rehab assignment. It'll be Sunday. It'll be with AAA Gwinnett. And the game is against Omaha at like 1:05. And for me, I think, and Braves country, I would say overall, that's just a good sign that he continues to progress, that he's getting that rehab assignment, and we're getting that much closer to getting an ace back.
Yeah, and that's going to be almost like you going out and trading for somebody, because you're talking about the Cy Young runner-up. You're talking about a guy we've been hearing how he's been thrown off to the side and been kind of ramping up to this right now. And, you know, originally we thought that he was going to be August, before we saw Max Fried come back up. But, you know, but now it seems like maybe towards the end of the month, the end of the month, we may see him get that, that first start, because the Atlanta Braves want to have him, get a few starts under his belt before they bring him up, which make all the sense in the world, because at the end of the day, there's no rush, because the Braves have been 36-17 since he and Kyle Wright went out. So hey, they've been doing okay. They've been holding it down. So I think that when you think about getting this guy back at the end of July, around that time, like, that is going to be huge for the Atlanta Braves. And I really feel like, you talked about those differences in that 2021 team. Like you said, Ronald Acuna not being around. That's the exact opposite of that. He's playing at the MVP type level, and then you get Max Fried right after the All-Star break, T. Like, I'm not concerned about this team falling off at any point. If Max Fried comes back healthy, we can say a 90% Max Fried. The Braves are going to be the team we're going to be talking about in October for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be talking about them. And really, they're the team that we should be talking about right now. The Braves, of course, are headed to Tampa. It's a face-off against the Rays, a battle of, quote-unquote, baseball's best, the top two teams, right?
Yes. Big quotation marks there.
Exactly. Those are some big quotations. And the reason I put that out there like that is not to sound homerish, but the numbers don't lie. I mean, you're 58-28, right? And you've won 10 of your last 11. That's the Braves, right? And then you juxtapose that with the now number 2 team in baseball, in the Tampa Bay Rays. They are 57-33, but most importantly, they are on a 5-game losing streak. They also lost their ace. He's on the IL for 15 days, McClanahan. So those are some things that could factor in. Meanwhile, you look at what Brian Snitker talked about, what he was able to do in that last game against the Guardians. He got just enough out of Soroka and got a whole lot out of Michael Tompkin to be able to really, really tinker with and maneuver this pitching staff, the rotation leading up to the All-Star break. So I asked the question, laying out that foundation of what the Braves are right now and what the Rays are right now. If the Braves win this series, what statement does that make, if any, heading into the All-Star break, the fake midpoint of the season. But if the Braves don't win the series, what statement does that make, if any?
To be honest with you, I think whether they win or lose this series, I think I'm going to feel the same way. They're the best team in baseball. Like, at the end of the day, because, I'm feeling the same way I felt, like, because you know how coming into that Marlins series, right? Like, everybody's like, oh, Braves, this is a big series, make a big statement. No, Marlins got to prove that they're going to make it a statement because, and I feel like the Rays are in the same way. The Rays have to prove that they are, the second best team in baseball. They have to prove that they are real contenders because at the end of the day, the Braves got a World Series. They got 2 World Series on their belt and one back in 2021. And the Rays have been absolutely awful, for a very long time. And they are finally competing with all these young players that they have, playing on well for them. Like you said, they lost the ace. That's a big thing. That's a big deal for a young team, right? Because at the end of the day, that when you have a young set of guys, but you also have a guy that can be a leader in that locker room, and if that ace is gone now going to be down for quite a bit of time, and then you're on a losing streak as well, all those things kind of turn in the Braves' favor, right? Not that they need it, but right. I feel like that's going to work in the Braves' favor and kind of continue to show that, hey, we're the best team in baseball, and there's no one from whether you're looking at their lineup 1 through 9, no one can compete with them in the entirety of Major League.
Right. And when you look at the stats, if you will, the stats don't lie, right? 487 runs. And the Rays edge them a little bit in that regard, right? With 494 runs. But in every other category, hits, getting to second base, getting to third base. Well, you already know home runs. They've knocked everybody out of the park in that category as well. So everywhere that you look, your OPS, if you will, much higher. We're talking about 841 to 787. So you start to see some separation in some of the more important categories. And what their pitcher brings to the table even tonight, like, yeah, he's got a fastball, but we know what the Braves do with fastballs, right?
Yeah.
So I think that to me
is the other way.
Exactly. just ask the Guardians what happened to them. Yeah, in that first inning, and that was not even with the long ball, and that's why I wanted to kind of make note of the number of hits that they had as well as that OPS, right? Because those are the numbers that start to kind of distinguish them from what the Rays are doing. And I think the other thing is this, and we'll see, because I'll tell you this much: I think that with the Braves, not to say the Rays aren't on a mission, but I still feel like there's something about what happened last year. We don't talk about it a heck of a lot. Yeah. They never talk about it, but I still say there's a motivating factor there. And I'm with you. I feel like whether the Braves win the series or lose the series, it doesn't really matter to me. I don't really care. I'm more focused on, as long as it's not a sweep, and as long as the Braves are competitive, like we tend to see them be, even in a close game where they play it out either down to the end or extras, I am good. And most importantly, for the arms to remain, like you said, if they happen to get Max Fried back late in July, that'd be a wonderful thing. If the arms can just stay steady for him, right? If Charlie Morton can give him hopefully 6 innings, and if he can get 6 or 7 out of Spencer Strider, we know that he totally can go broke. Yes.
He can go.
Yeah.
Not concerned.
No, like at all. So those are the things that I'm kind of thinking about as well that I want to see, because although you will get the All-Star break, if you will, the other piece there is what happens to those arms kind of before you get to the break so that you get there comfortably and in a healthy way.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? When you, like you said, Charlie Morton, Spencer Strider, Bryce Elder, right?
And Bryce Elder, yes.
Those have been the 3 most consistent guys that you have. After that, it's kind of been a spin the wheel of young guy who wants to have a chance. Jared Schuster, AJ Smith-Shawver, Mike Soroka, trying to get his life together, and it seems like he's on his way back. And I'm so rooting for him. I ain't meaning for it to come out like that, but like I am rooting for this guy. So when you have those 3 on the mound, and Morton, Strider, and Elder, those are guys that, 2 of them are all-stars, T. So I think that, the Rays are going to find themselves running into a nice little bit of a buzzsaw, because At the end of the day, these bats are smoking. Like they said, they are the number one scoring team in the first inning. So so you can give that comfortability comes in when those guys come to the mound, because they know more than likely they're going to have somewhat of a lead, whether they're leading out or they actually, going into the bottom of the inning. So I think that's what gives me comfort. And I feel like I said, the Rays, y'all better strap up, because this is going to get real. It's going to get real fast.
Yeah, because when you look at the hitting numbers, the Braves are leading in 7 of the 9 categories. And when you look at the pitching numbers overall, the Braves are ahead of Tampa as well, just in terms of wins, just a little bit ahead there. But in terms of getting quality games, getting starts, getting saves, innings pitched, whip, all of it, the Braves are in a better space. So I do think, as much as we want the bats to be what they are, and especially in the beginning, right? So that those pitchers have the confidence that, hey, they're getting the run production that they're going to need. I feel like the Braves can also be confident that in just about every statistical category from a pitching staff perspective, they also best the Rays. But we shall see. This is going to be a very, very interesting and intriguing matchup heading into the All-Star break. Tell us what you guys think as well, our everydayers. Drop us some comments in the chat on YouTube. We want to know about that. What do you think about the Dejounte Murray trade extension? Excuse me. That was one where, speaking of that, there was word just 48 hours ago that he was going to be a part of a trade, and now we're looking at him as being a mainstay in the Hawks backcourt. Let us know on YouTube, and of course, download ATL Day Ones wherever you get your podcasts.
But T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down on the show. Today is no different, T. Like, when you talk about social media and the Twitter, which I don't know if we're going to be referring to Twitter as the social media to go to when all these things go down, because, I'm on Threads, T. I might have to get you on there. You know what I'm saying? I'm
already on there
so far.
I'm good.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about, T. That's what I'm saying. You're already on it. But anyway, Keke Palmer and Usher. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, Usher, because, that's how we refer to him down here in Atlanta. That's how we get down. So Keke Palmer was at the concert. For those you don't know, she went to the concert to go see Usher. Usher decided, how you go into the audience, serenade folks. He even had 21 Savage, singing his songs out there. So, everybody getting vibing, right? Getting good vibes. So he chooses Keke Palmer, walks up to her, serenades a little bit. She sings a little bit. You know what I'm saying? They vibing. You know what I'm saying? Then she turns around and shows everybody, what she working with just a little bit with the dress she had on. And somebody didn't like it to the point, Mr. Darius. We're going to call him Darius. We're going to use his first name. We're going to put the whole government out there. He had a problem with it, T. And he is, I just found out by doing my research, that he is the father of their child. They had a family together and all that stuff. So he had an issue with her, showing off the assets and, vibing with Usher. But he decides to put it out on social, T. Like, I mean, if by in your head, I feel like you understand where this kind of went left.
Yeah, I'm so confused, because I follow her on Instagram, and it seemed like a very loving, very cohesive, very equitable or equal relationship, right?
Right, yeah.
And so if that's the case, and they seem to really like each other as people, Darius Jackson. So I'm putting his entire name out there. Because when you put her on Front Street, you already know you're about to be put way on front as well. So for me, I just think that's the kind of thing you handle in-house, right? And I heard this on our guy Dylan's show earlier today, right? The Hometown Take. He had a caller who said, well, my wife and I, we don't allow for that, because she wouldn't let me wear pants that are too tight that show, what it shouldn't show. And I wouldn't let her wear a dress. And I thought to myself, see, caller, you missed the boat. They're not married. Okay. That's a baby mama and a baby daddy. That's just the reality.
Now
right?
we're talking.
Yeah. So you got to be really, really careful about the bar that you set for essentially a baby mama and a baby daddy, regardless of if they're in a relationship, because you can break camp so easily with that. And you kind of feel like you have a little bit more freedom to say exactly what you want to say. Not excusing Darius Jackson, but I'm just saying that sometimes when people get out of pocket like that, It's a little easier to get out of pocket when that's just your girlfriend or your boyfriend. That's number one. Number two, I'm not trying to sound like a hater, because I'm not a hater of men. I never ever throw men under the bus on a consistent. However, here's the thing. He showed you something, Kiki. You better take a look, because if he was okay with putting you out there on social media, he showed you I don't want to say he showed you who he is, but he at least showed you a big part of who he is. That was very immature. That was very condescending, and low key. There may be some jealousy there. I'm just saying.
And when you think about it, T, like, I think you make an excellent point, right? Because at the end of the day, they're not married. She still filed single on her taxes. So, and that's how I used to joke with my now wife when we were dating. I was like, shoot, I still file single on my taxes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't saying that, just to kind of throw in her face, but I was just saying, like, just to put it in perspective, right? You know what I mean? Because that's how we got to look at this thing when it comes to dating. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, we don't know. Like, there's no real commitment. There's commitment, but there's no real commitment.
Yeah.
Once you make that real commitment, you standing up there before God and saying, you know what? I'm about to be here until the end.
Yes.
So I wholeheartedly agree with you when you talk about the whole red flag piece, because here's the thing. You got to know what you're dealing with.
Yes.
Like, this is Keke Palmer.
Yes.
She is protected by the ancestors.
Yes.
You know
and
what
not
I'm saying?
just them.
And by Black Twitter.
Over.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. She was hand-selected, hand-picked. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but just to co-sign, like, no, she's not even just, Black Twitter came for him. But who's the night show host? I'm looking, Jimmy Fallon. He handpicked her for one of the most popular game shows on NBC right now. So she has great reach. Great reach. Just saying.
She's in a whole different realm of that. So when you talk about that jealousy piece, that's a whole thing. Like, there needs to be a real conversation, because this incident, this is kind of like, y'all can have a conversation about it. Okay, cool. But the real conversation, the longer conversation, if you want to become a real family and you really want to make this commitment and you want to make this thing work, Darius, I'm talking to you right now, because at the end of the day, man, you're the man in this relationship, and you need to be able to establish yourself as being confident enough to be able to deal with somebody like this. Because this is just, when you look at the interactions, true enough, maybe if she was married, like, I don't know. But like I said, I still want to say anything on social media, because that's our business. When you put stuff out there like that, you give people room to comment and give their opinions of your relationship, and your relationship shouldn't be on display like that. So I think Keke, keep doing you. You know what I'm saying? But Darius, man, if you really want this thing to work, you want to be the guy in this relationship to say, hey, you know what? I want us to be a family for real, for real. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all connected right now. 18 years at least. You know what I'm saying? But if y'all want to be a real good one, you got to do what you got to do, my man.
Yeah, and Keke, you stay off social media providing feedback as well. And Darius, one more word for you. In the words of that immortal genius, Kendrick Lamar, sit down and be humble. We'll be back on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or someday next week. Jarvis and I are going to have a few people that we're going to throw your way in terms of guests, and you don't want to miss it, because, hey, sometimes we need a chance to reset too. So come back on Monday, come back next week, and we'll talk Braves, we'll talk Hawks, we'll talk everything Summer League, Braves going into that All-Star break with those 8 All-Stars and all points in between. Take care. Enjoy the A this weekend, and we will see you next week.
And share love. Show love, and most importantly, spread some love over the weekend.